I think the problem that people have with it is not even whether or not it gets equally distributed. It's that if it becomes sentient and it goes on its own, the fear that people have, the general fear that we're going to become obsolete, is that human beings are essentially creating a superior version of higher intelligence that will be powered by quantum computing and connected to nuclear reactors, and it's going to have like this ungodly ability to, well, first of all, they've already shown that AI has learned to code. I mean, this is one of the things that OpenAI said, that they're learning how to code their own AI.
I think this year, probably in 2025, we at Meta, as well as the other companies that are basically working on this, are going to have an AI that can effectively be a sort of mid-level engineer that you have at your company that can write code. And once you have that, then in the beginning it'll be really expensive to run, and then you can get it to be more efficient. And then over time we'll get to the point where a lot of the code in our apps and including the AI that we generate is actually going to be built by AI engineers instead of people engineers. But I don't know. I think that'll augment the people working on it. So I mean, my view on this is like the future, people are just going to be so much more creative and are going to be freed up to do kind of crazy things. It goes back to, my daughter was like playing with Legos before and they kind of ran out of Legos. And then now she can have Minecraft and can build whatever she wants, and it's so much better. It's just like, I think it's the future versions of this stuff are just going to be wild. But
unquestionably.
Yeah.
Another concern that people have is that it's going to eliminate a lot of jobs.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
Well, I think it's too early to know exactly how it plays out, but my guess is that it'll probably create more creative jobs than it... Well, I guess if you look at the history of all this stuff, my understanding is like 100 years ago, I don't know if this was 100 or 150 years ago, but it was like at some point not too far along in the grand scheme of things, like the vast majority of people in society were farmers, right? Because they kind of needed to be in order to create enough food for everyone to survive. And then we turned that into an industrial process. And now it's like 2% of society are farmers, and we get all the food that we need. So what did that free up everyone else to do? Well, some of them went on to do other things that are sort of like creative pursuits or cultural pursuits or other jobs. And then some percent of it just went towards recreation, right? So I think generally people just don't work as many hours today as they did back when everyone needed to farm in order to have enough food for everyone to survive. So I think that trend is sort of played out as technology has grown. And so my guess is that like the percent of people who will be doing stuff that's like physically required for humanity to survive will get to be smaller and smaller as it has. More people will dedicate themselves to kind of creative and artistic and cultural pursuits. I think that's generally good. I think the number of hours in a week that someone will have to work in order to be able to get by will probably continue to shrink. Yet I think people who are super engaged in what they do are going to be able to work really hard and accomplish way more than they ever could before because they have like this unimaginable leverage from having a lot more technology. So I think that if you just like fast forwarded or extrapolated out the historical technological trend is what you'd get. I think the question is what you raised, which is this qualitatively a different type of thing that somehow obsoletes people? But I just think when you're asking that, it's just important to remind ourselves that like at every step along the way of human progress and technology, people thought that the technology that we were developing was going to obsolete people. So maybe this time it's really different, but I would guess that what'll happen is that the technology will get integrated into like everything that we do, which again is why I think it's really important that it's open source and that it's widely available. So that way it's not just like one company or one government kind of monopolizing the whole thing. And I'd guess that if we do it in that way, we'll all just kind of have superpowers is my guess, rather than it sort of